Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Deborah, aka the Sunset Girl Creates, and today we're going to be doing some knitting. We're going to be working on the ice cream shawl, and let me just get to my Ravelry tab and bring up the shawl. And okay, so what I use is I use Ravelry, right? And then I use, what's this one called? Knit Companion, okay? And Knit Companion syncs back to my Ravelry and brings any of the patterns I purchased into my on a cloud. So if I want to do something, I can. So I'm going to be working on the ice cream shawl, and it is by Tetoana Otruta. Okay, I'm sorry, it's a hard name to pronounce. It looks Russian, but it is a gorgeous design, and I can't wait till I get it done. And it's got one main color, and then on the border has another color. So I restarted this shawl because I had a count off, and the count off was way down in the bottom, so it was easier than trying to redo the stitches and pull up the stitches than it was because I was so short. It wasn't too long yet, and I'd already undone 6 or 7 stitches, so that's kind of why my hair is a little damp from the shower this morning, so please bear with me. It is just a little bit damp yet, and it's like I'm wet and drying, and it will get brushed, and then it'll be nice and straight again. So I used Knit Companion. So on Knit Companion, I can track my rows. So I have a highlighter that actually highlights the row that I'm on. And in the charts on this one, I like the charting. It's really good. The only thing missing off the chart was where to place your markers. So in row 1, you have to do the written in order to you have to do the written pattern to see where to place your markers. Okay, so I placed my markers, and I've only started it. I've only gotten back. I'll show you in a second as soon as I get this row done. Always make sure that your stitch markers are in the right direction when you're knitting, because you do not want those stitch markers to have any issues, okay? And they get tied up in your yarn if you're doing a knit and it's sitting in the purl position. So you have to be careful that way. Make sure that your count is correct when you're doing it. I know that I have to pay attention to my pattern, but I think the biggest thing was I was trying to learn the pattern, understand the pattern, and move on, right? So it took me a little time to understand the pattern. I got through it, and then I realized where the issues were, and they were lying down in the beginning of the shawl. So it was much easier to take the beginning of the shawl and to get it started. So it is just right now a very little itty bitty shawl, and as you can see how pretty those are when they're done though. I love it when you pull it around and you can actually stretch it down and you can see your pattern pretty simply and pretty easily by doing that. And I do like it because then you can kind of stretch it out. You can see the center line on it, see the center spine, and then you have the stitches on the side. The stitches on each side are identical. So if I put a yarn over, I do 2 knits, and then a yarn over on one side. I'm going to do, as soon as I get past the center point, I'm going to do that yarn over, knit 2, yarn over. Okay, so it's really just it's a simple pattern once you understand it. I was fortunate that there was no garter tab involved in this. I don't like doing a garter tab. I need a whole lot of practice on the garter tab though. And I think I might be able to understand it a little bit better, but right now it's not that big of a deal. And what else was I gonna, okay, I wanted to talk about my sweater and my sock that got put on timeout. I put them on timeout because of the reason that I'm going to tell you right now, is that I didn't want to pull it back. I had 2 options with my sweater. I could take out just the ribbing and do a couple more inches and then put my ribbing in, and that will take it down to just about mid-arm. So it'll be down to about here. And that's one option, to just take out the 5 or 6 rows of ribbing and extend it down a couple more inches and then put the ribbing on so that it comes down to the 3/4 length. Right now, when I'm done, it sits right in the arm and in the bend of my elbow, and so it makes it very uncomfortable. And as my husband said, it will look better and look nicer if I take it down. Either make it a short sleeve sweater or make it 3/4 length. I prefer the 3/4 length, so I'm going to pull out those 6 rows, and then I will do some more rows down, get it to the length that I want, and then once I have it at the right length, I will then, once it is at the right length, then I'll put in the ribbing. And so the reason I didn't want to, I put it in timeout in the first place was because I was going to have to do so many stitches, right? I was going to have to pull out way too many rows. I was either going to have to pull out enough rows to make it a short sleeve, which is then going to come in and be right at the very bottom of my color work. So I'd prefer to take it down so that you can see the nice color work that is on the shoulder. So I will be bringing that back out, finishing that one. So we will start seeing that one on, it will be available, and it'll be something that we'll be working on the channel. I don't want to, I got a piece of fuzz on my yarn, so I'm just getting it off so that it doesn't get within the scarf and make it look like it's all frayed or something. There we go. And that happens sometimes, especially when you have hand spun wool yarn. So this is just, it's probably not hand spun anymore because it did come from, where did it come from? I actually got this at the Stitches conference, and the yarn that I'm using for this it's the Malabrigo sock. It's got approximately 440 yards. It's 3.5 ounces. It's 8 stitches per inch. And they recommend US 1 to 3 or for crochet, and a 2.25 to 2.5 millimeter in the knitting needles. And it's been made in Peru. There is no dye lot number. You can go to malabrigoyarn.com to find their yarn. This is Abril, and it's 853. I know it's backwards. You guys cannot see it properly, but that is our sock yarn, okay? And I paid $19.49 for a sock skein. It's kettle dyed pure superwash merino wool, machine washable in cold water and dry flat. Okay, and so I originally bought this to make a sweater out of this and a couple other Malabrigos that I have, but I chose to change my mind because I found a different sweater that I want to do, and this one I just think is so gorgeous, and it's going to work out beautiful in this shawl. And then I have a lighter one that I'll use for the border. So that's the yarn that we're using. I am using my ChowGoo needles. So these are my ChowGoo needles. They come in a case like this. You have the bigger needles on this side. They all sit with the screw end in so that your sharp tips don't get dull. It keeps them nice and sharp. And then, so that is US 9, 10, 10.5, 11, 13, and 15. So I have all the way to a size 15. See how big that sucker is? And in this set, I have, the smallest I have is a 2. Okay? I have a, is this a 0? No, this one's a size 2. It is the lace ChowGoos. I could have used that, but it wasn't the right size. This one is a size 5. These were bought for socks. Here's another size 2. And then I have in here, I have my ChowGoo twist, and I believe these ones are a 1. So these are the ones. See how skinny they are? And these ones I believe are a 0. They're on the, what does this one say? Can I see it? It's a 2.25 millimeter. Okay, size 1. So that's a size 1, 2.25 millimeter. And can I see what this one is? This might be the 0. I'm just looking on the needle, and sometimes you can see it. It really just depends on the light. It says ChowGoo. Let me move it down here where I can see the whole thing. And this one is also a, it's a 2.0. And I believe it says 0 on it. Okay, so they come in multiple sizes. On this side, we have the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, I have the 3 out using for something. The 4, I believe, is the one being used here. Let me check. I think we have size 4. Is it the 4 or the 5? You have to kind of take it out of the super bright light. I got it upside down, that's why I can't read it. This one's my 5, which is 3.75. The 4, I believe, is in the color work, and the 3 is on the other sweater I've got started. That one's in timeout for quite a while. It is a cardigan, so it has a lot of beats that it's a cardigan. It has a lot of purling to it, so at least it's not color work purling, but you still have a lot of purling to do. And so because of that, I just don't want to work on it right now. I have a couple other things that need to get done before that gets done. So that one will stay. We will probably pull that out sometime early next year. This one, I want to get the color work one done, and I want to start the next color work sweater I'm doing. I can't wait. It is going to be gorgeous. So I can't wait to show you. And what else is going on? I think that's it. Oh, I got my blanket going. My blanket's doing really well. It's got I don't know, I have to look at it. Oops, now see, I'm not paying attention and I missed a yarn over. I already know. So I'm going to go back one stitch, put my yarn over in, and then put my loop back, my stitch marker back. Okay, just make sure that when you're done, you count your stitches and make sure that your stitches are correct for your next row. If for some reason your rows don't count out properly, they don't look right, you end up with 1 or 2 stitches at the end, I really do recommend that at that point you take a stop and figure out where the error is, because it's not going to be the error from you doing the knitting. Most likely you might find it, but most likely you're not going to find it. Okay, so I want to just make sure that I have my stitches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it out and I'm just going to read my stitches, make sure I did it correctly. I should have a total of 1, 2, 5, 6, 7. I should have 7 stitches. So I've got 2, 4, 6, 7. Okay, and then I should have 7 on this side. 2, 4, 6. I know I'm right. So I know I can go to the next row because now I've counted it. And that's what I wasn't doing last time. Last time I was just saying, I know how to do this. I got this. I won't mess up. And so I ended up having to pull it completely out to do. Okay, so it's not too bad. It could be a lot worse. So what I'm doing is I'm just moving over my stitch marker, and we're going to start, I think we'll start reading our, the reason I showed you all the needles is because it comes back to the article that we're going to be reading. It's The Beginner's Guide to Understanding Knitting, and it was put out on July 13th, 2020. So knitting needle size. Beginner's Guide to Understanding Beginning or the Knitting Needle Size. Okay, I can't talk today. So we're going to get started on that. So let me get that up. Okay. So as a beginner knitter, you may have stood in the knitting needle aisle staring wide-eyed at the options, right? Because I did. I'll tell you what, man, when I saw all those, I was like, wow. I've been around crafts all my life, so I wasn't surprised at how many sizes there were. I was surprised at the type of needles you can get. You can get bamboo needles, you can get metal needles, you can get one of the top of the line like the Chagous. There's so many needles out there. So really having an understanding of the type of needles and the sizes and what they mean will help you tremendously as you start your knitting journey. Okay, so for my knitting journey, I spent a lot of time watching YouTube videos so that I could understand what I was reading and allow me to figure out how to build up the muscle memory that I need to knit. Okay, so you need to have muscle memory. Okay, so we're going to work on our next row. This will have our first decreases in it. So let's keep going. Or maybe you scrolled through page after page of knitting needles in your favorite online knitting store without a clue about which one to purchase. We have all been there, and we hope to clear things up for you now. So when I started knitting, I bought myself a boy set of needles, right? Knitting needles. And they were really good knitting needles to learn on. It's the same one that my granddaughter, same ones my granddaughter will learn to knit on when she's ready to start knitting. Okay. yarn over. Okay, give me just 1 minute. Okay. So why do knitting needles have different sizes? So why do they have? Does anybody know why they have different sizes? Because you have different sizes of yarn, right? Ding, 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 ding. And each different size of yarn requires a different size knitting needle. Okay. Oops. And I'm not paying attention to my pattern again. And I missed some yarn overs. See, this is why I had to restart my pattern in the first place, was because I made this mistake. So, that's my yarn over, and then knit one, knit two together. Okay. Okay, so it should just be one more to take out. Okay. So, and then there's another decrease. So you have to pay attention to your pattern and just don't get to chitty chatty like I do, right? And there's a stitch missing here. So this is where it comes. Okay, so now I've gotten to a point, and this is my own fault, okay? This is my 100% my own fault. Because I did tell you to pay attention to that, right? So pay attention, know what you're knitting, and be prepared. And what I did was I knitted two together when I should have only knitted one. No? What's going on there? Oh, that goes under there. Okay, so it's about knowing your knitting, right? So I know that what I have to do is I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches in here. 2, 4, 6. So that was my own fault, right? Because if there's 7 stitches, I should have 7 stitches. However, yeah. Okay. So I have to have 7 stitches to do what I need. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. Okay. So we're going to do a yarn over, knit 1. So that's where I messed up. Okay, so there's knit 1. Okay, now I'm going to do the next one, and then it's a yarn over, knit 1. See that's wrong. No, isn't? No, it's not. No, it's right. See, I confused myself on my own time. It's not hard, right? It's not really hard to confuse me these days. I can confuse myself quite well, and then wonder what I missed, right? So now I'm just finishing up that row. I am going to count. I should have 9 total on this side. So I should have 2, 4, wait a minute, I forgot to do that. I forgot to I did the knit, right? And what you're supposed to do is slip 1, knit 1, pass the slip stitch over, and I missed that, okay? And then, but I missed yarn over, didn't I? No, I didn't. Yarn over, knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together. Why is there yarn over? Yes. Okay, wait a minute. Yarn over. Yeah, see, it's hard to keep track of a pattern, but you can. All you have to do is read your stitches, make sure you've got it right. I just prefer to make sure I've got it right before I go on. If I don't, then things aren't going to turn out correctly, right? And so it's really important that you pay attention, because if you don't do the row first correctly, then the second row is not going to work either, okay? So the row on top of it, if this one's not done, the next row I do the pattern on, which will be in 2 rows, I'll know that I made a mistake, because I cannot not have my yarn overs, and that's where I was missing. And that in knitting, that is the one thing that most people forget, are the yarn overs. So if you're missing a stitch, it's most likely that you missed a yarn over somewhere. If you look for that yarn over missing, you'll probably find it. Yarn overs, as long as you find them when you need them, when you have them missing, it's really easy if you catch it on the next round, because the next round will allow you to, the next round, if you do the next round, as long as your count's right, the next one will be right, as long as you do the proper pattern, right? So, every knitting needle size has a purpose. So what's their purpose? The project, the yarn, and the stitch are all factors into which needle is best. Luckily, knitting needles are labeled with sizes. Once you understand the sizes, you will crack the code for which is the best needle to use. So it's like a little code, right? That's what they are. The numbers are part of a code, right? And what does that code tell us? Well, that code tells a lot of things. And so let's see what it's going to tell us, right? So, knitting needle sizing. Most knitting needles are labeled with both US and metric sizes. It's important to pay attention which size you reference, because a US 5 and a 5 millimeter are very different in sizes. In US measurement, the smaller the number, the smaller the needle, right? Okay. In the UK sizes, the higher the number, the smaller the needle. So if you're looking at the UK, you're higher, the smaller, right? Smaller needles are used with thinner yarn. For purposes of clarity, the size referenced here will refer to the US size. So this is going to be based off of US measurements. So we're going to be reading in US measurements. I cannot convert unless they tell me what the conversion is. I'm not as familiar with I didn't know there were different number sizes for the UK. So that's a new one for me too. Okay, so knitting needle sizes explained. Once you select a pattern, the size of the recommended knitting needle is specified. If you're creating your own project or substituting a different yarn, you may need to adjust your needle. And do you know how to adjust your needle? Let's see what the trick is, okay? And let's find out what our needles are. Okay, so knitting needle size 17 and up. So these are for bulky yarns, are great for weighted blankets and other large projects. Projects using jumbo yarn will use these giant needles. Where am I at? Knitting with needles this big is a serious arm workout. So if you need to work out your arms, that's probably a good one to do then, I see. And then, so with shopping for needles this size, opt for plastic since they will be lighter. So plastic will make it lighter and easier for I just made a pearl, a yarn over one I didn't mean to. There we go. And so we need to go back here. Okay, let's put ours, okay, now we're going to count. We should have 9 stitches between the stitch markers now. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Okay, so we've got 9. We've got that row correct, okay? So we can go on to row 9. Okay, so let's see what the other needle sizes are. So needle sizes 9 to 11. These needles are pretty large and work well for large projects with big yarn. US sizes are a bit strange in the size bracket. There is a 10, a 10.5, and an 11. So as I showed you, we'll pull out my jagus real quick. And they're talking about these ones, right? This is a 10, a 10.5, and an 11. So that's what they're talking about, because there's a half size in here. And so the half sizes can be confusing, and that's what they're talking about, okay? And then the 13 and the 15 that I have, these are for the super bulkies, right? Okay, so I'm just going to kind of leave this here, because then we can kind of go over the needle sizes on some of them. There's a few that I'm missing in here, because they're already on projects. So US sizes are a bit strange, so we've got 10, 10.5, and 11. So then we've got knitting needle size 7 to 9. Okay, so we're looking at 7 to 9. This size range is usually the size that beginner knitters learn to use first. These needles are very manageable and great for worsted weight yarn. Many sweaters and hat patterns call for knitting needles in this size range. So we're talking about 7s to 5s, right? Did we ever do 8? Where'd 8 go? I don't think they included 8. Okay, so 8 kind of falls in the 7 and the 5 to 7, okay? Or no, those are the, oops. So the 7 to 9 also includes the 8, okay? That's where that one went, okay? And then you have 5 to 7, which are another common size for knitting sweaters, scarves, and gloves. These needles go in hand with DK weight. So you're looking at 5 to 7. So I'm using the 5 on my shawl, and my DK sweater is actually out of a 4. So but it depends, okay? So knitting needles size 3 to 5, right? Knitters who enjoy knitting garments for babies typically use these needles. Sport weight yarn pairs well with these needles to craft socks. And actually, I have sport yarn is what my yarn is, so that's why I'm using a 3, okay? Sport yarn pairs well with these needles to craft socks, sweaters, baby blankets, and baby layouts. As we head down the needle size, you may experience some hand discomfort. Take a few minutes to stretch your fingers a bit. So the smaller the number, sometimes you can get cramps in your hand, right? Because I'm using a 5 here, and that's kind of small, right? It's on the smaller end of the ratio. And so it's not too bad to use, right? I wouldn't say. I'd say it's actually pretty good. I'm going to go like this on my camera real quick, okay? So, needle size 1 to 3, known as sock knitting needles. This size range is ideal for sock weight yarn. Socks, shawls, and any lightweight garment pattern will require this range of needle. Okay, so I use that, like I said, I've got all kinds of sock needles. And that's because, see, I have the sock needles in here. My 1 to 3s are in my mini jagu set, right? And these are the minis. That's why it's called the mini set. Not because it's a smaller amount of needles. It's because it is the mini set. So it comes in 2 different sizes. So if you're looking at size 1 point, let's look at 2, okay? Because I have both of them. Okay, so I'm going to pull 2, and I'm going to show you why. So these are the minis, okay? All I'm holding on is to the screw, okay? And if you put that next to the standard, that's what you see. So the reason that these are called minis is because of the size of the needle, not necessarily because it is a sock needle. These are great for socks, though. I really, really like these needles for socks, the really short ones, especially with the stretchier yarn, because I can put the 5-inch 13 millimeter cable on it, right? So these cables, these minis, come in the small minis all the way to 50 inches or more, okay? So you can get those. Just remember that when you're out playing and you're deciding what you want to do, make sure that you're really looking at your needle size, because the needle size makes a difference, a big difference when you're knitting. And you don't want to have a size 4 and that's all you use, because you'll never have anything come out right. So you always have to have the set so that you can have the ones that you need, or you can go buy the singles, whichever is your preference. I have some that come as just the needles, which is this, and I just add my cord. And then I have some that come with the cord already connected. So these are already connected. Oh, and I have a second pair in the back. So as you can see, they're all connected to each other. This one, I believe these are both 2s. I have all kinds of sock needles, because I do a lot of socks. I usually have 2 or 3 pairs of socks on the needles at any given time. Right now I only have 1 pair. I just finished one, so I did have 2. I haven't started a second pair, and if I do, my husband, I think, will kill me, because I still have to finish the other pair. Actually, my husband doesn't care what projects I start, as long as I eventually finish them, and he knows I will. Everything always gets finished one way or the other. Okay, hold on, there's a plane going right over my house. Okay, it's kind of gone. So, and then we have knitting size 000 to 1. Okay, so these are really, really small. So if you're just starting out, you won't need this size needle until you gain some experience. These tiny needles are for lace patterns in very tiny, precise stitching. These needles are considered to be specialized and require dexterity and lots of patience. Now that you're an expert on knitting needles, it's time to pick up a new knitting kit and reach outside your comfort zone. So that's really our article on needle sizes. And needle sizes are interesting, and that's really why I made sure that we read this article, because it's not only needle size, but it's the kind of needle you have, right? So when I started using this Malabrigo sock yarn, and I'm going to tell you that it's very slippery, right? So you need to be very careful with the yarn on these needles, because it slides. I mean, it super slides, right? And so if you're not familiar with knitting and comfortable with it, then you're not going to feel comfortable when it comes time to knit the rest of your piece, right? So you need to feel comfortable when you're knitting. It's important to have that comfort level. It allows you to really, the more comfort I feel, the easier knitting becomes in the instance of, and I'm just trying to think, it's in the instance of practice, right? I spent a year and a half, and all I did was knit until I had it down. I can pick up my knitting and start any pattern at this point. I might have to learn maybe a stitch or 2, but I usually do pretty well, okay? So I'm just trying to make sure I'm in the right place on my pattern, because the chart only shows 1/2 of the pattern, so you have to go back and double check your pattern again, right? To make sure that you're doing it correctly and that you're getting the proper stitches in this proper space. And that's what it's all about, is making sure that you're properly placing your stitches so that they come out correctly. So you need to make sure that when you're reading the pattern, you're capturing everything you need to do. And with an intricate pattern like this, another trick and tip is what I'm going to do is once I get this first pattern done, this first section, once I know that it is 100% correct, I will then put in a lifeline. And a lifeline will allow me, I'll show you what I mean. So if I take this yarn, okay, so we have this pattern, right? And I've made sure, let's just assume that I've completely made sure that everything is correct in this pattern now, right? And we know that it is, okay? So then what I do is I take a needle and a piece of thread, either thread, I usually use embroidery floss when I'm putting in a timeline, especially, or a lifeline, because it's the only way that I can ensure that it's going to go in there, right? And it's going to be small enough, but yet it's long enough. You can use a piece of thread, embroidery floss, whatever you've got on hand that makes it easier for you to put that lifeline in. And that allows you to pull your needles out, right? And you can pull all of your stitches down to that point of the lifeline and then start over. So what I will be doing from now on is when I'm done with this section, I will be putting lifelines in. So once I confirm that it's correct, it is the easiest and best way to prevent having to keep pulling out like I did, okay? So pulling it out is not very much fun, right? It's not what I enjoy doing. So I want to take this pattern and I want to pull it together. And I want to make it what it's supposed to be, because this pattern is gorgeous with all the yarn overs that are in it. And so I want to make sure that I'm capturing the gorgeousness of this yarn as well, because Malabrigo is not a per se cheap yarn, right? It's not. It's something that we pay. I mean, when you pay $20 for a skein of yarn, I mean, if you go to Michael's, you can pick up a skein of yarn sometimes for $3 or $4. And it's going to be way more yarn than you're going to get in the hank that I got. Because you're buying it in a skein that is manufactured. And the one thing about yarn that I love so much is the colors that you can get yarn in, right? I am a huge purple and pink fan, okay? If I could have pink on every day, it would be pink. Even when I put my kind of blue nails on it, it's got a purple and a pink on it, right? That's because I have to have pink. I'm a pink baby. And purple, obviously. You can see I've got a pink and a purple nail on. And I will get done with this row and I will count. I know that I add 2 stitches per row, so I know that my count will be 11, okay? At least for this first round. When I start doing the repeats, then those numbers will change slightly. But I will still keep track. So what I've got to do is I've got to finish up this section, and I just finished row 9. I'm doing 10 now. And once I'm done, I will count, make sure that everything's correct, and then I'll move on to the next one. Rows, I've got the 11 and 13 left to do. So 11, 12, and 13 on this section. When I'm done, I will then put in my lifeline, because then I will guarantee that I have confirmed that the pattern is correct all the way down to where the lifeline is. And it will give me a spot to work back to, so I know that when I'm done I can knit and it'll be done and ready to go. Okay, so there's another round done. At this point we're at 45 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and close down the video. I did get up to row 10 done on the video, so this is where we are now. Okay, see how pretty that shawl turned out? It's going to be gorgeous. Look at all those. See all the yarn overs? And wait until you see the double decreases that come in here. We'll see it next time because I'm sure I'll be working on this some more. So with that said, if you like this video, a thumbs up would be great. If you don't, a thumbs down is fine. But please leave us a comment in the bottom, down in the bottom below. We don't mind constructive criticism. So if you have constructive criticism, we will take that into mind. So please leave your comments below. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can also leave those below, okay? And if you want to be part of the Sunsetgirlcreates family, we'd love to have you here. All you need to do is hit that subscribe button down below. And if you want to know every time we upload a video, all you have to do is hit the bell icon and it will let you know every time we upload a video. So with that said, I want to thank you all for coming and joining me for our Friday knit or crochet with me. And I'm wishing you a happy Friday and a wonderful upcoming weekend. I'll see you again on Tuesday. Bye-bye. Have a great day.